Somebody to take the, but that's what
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the Henry County School Board meeting to order. This is our regular March meeting. At this time, we'll have the roll call.
Mr. Auker?
Here.
Dr. Duvall? Mrs. Flanagan?
Here.
Mr. Gravely?
Here.
Mr. Martin?
Here.
Dr. Stampa?
Here.
Mr. Zayer?
Here. At this time, we need a motion to approve our agenda.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Mrs. Flanagan, seconded by the Reverend Auker to approve the agenda. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion is unanimous with Dr. Duvall absent. I'd like to take this time to welcome our visitors. This is one of the school board's favorite type of meetings where we honor the progress of our students and their many accomplishments. I would ask Mr. Martin to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm going to ask the Reverend Tyler Miller to come up and give us the invocation at the podium. And while Reverend Miller's coming up, I'd like everybody to stand in a moment of silence in honor of Mrs. Lynn Fitzgibbons, who was a valued employee of the Henry County system for many years. Everybody please stand.
Let us pray. Eternal God, we are grateful for this hour and this moment for which the members of the board and our community commit together in a partnership for the advancement and the achievement of education. We pray, oh God, that they will hear each other, and as we participate and share, we equally will listen. We thank you for all of these students and those who represent so much achievement in the division. We say thank you. We also remember at this time, amen, Ms. Fitzgibbon and her family, and we are grateful for her service and the star that she was in the school division. We praise you for this time. May we use it to your glory and to your honor. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, we have matters by the public. We only have one person signed up this evening, and that's the Reverend Milner. If you'd state your name for the record, Reverend Milner, and try to keep it to 3 minutes, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am Tyler C. Milner. I reside at 631 Holland Circle and the humble pastor of the Morning Star Holy Church in the Irishwood district of our community. I do want to also acknowledge our superintendent and the administrative staff and all of these fine achievers who are here tonight. It's kind of like when you preach to a small crowd and see a crowd like this, it makes you want to preach. And so I'm not going to do that tonight. But I am going to say a few words. But I had an extended conversation with our superintendent, and we are grateful and want to acknowledge in this public setting that she has come through the ranks and has proven herself to be an outstanding educator, and all, I think, love her and look forward to her kind of leadership. And so I know we can have a better partnership because she's our superintendent. I want to acknowledge the chairman and all the rest of the members of the board and our own district representative, Mr. Ben Gravely, for which I have had some of this conversation with the three of them. And I would like, at the end, to give you a copy and not read all of this because I'm more like, you know, a talker than a reader. But I do want to read some of it because I think it would be to our benefit. Effective educational policy and leadership require board members who are talented, broad-minded, possessing a genuine passion for learning and children. The superintendent needs to be someone who is savvy, leadership type, master teacher, and one with a proven track record, which our superintendent is, with leadership, and thereby has credibility and is also a community partner. And finally, strong community support and active participation that is represented here tonight, I feel is necessary for quality education. Some of the characteristics for a district or a division that is a diverse population need to have some of the following characteristics. Afro-American educators, both in the central office and at the building level, and also professionals and persons who are working with students that when they look up sometime during the day, they ought to see somebody who look like them. Teacher must know how to relate to the Afro-American student as well as all of the students in the division. Programs need to be diverse and flexible. And finally, but not least, all parties, administrators, teachers need to have a positive sensitivity to cultural diversity. If it's one thing that will strengthen partnership, or is to have an acknowledgement, this is a diverse district. It is a district that with multiple culture and at every level, it ought to be acknowledged and celebrated. But we are not off the hook. Parents and families are the first teachers. A good job at home makes for greater education and learning for the students. Some of the things that ought to be in the home, there ought to be a validation that you're going to school. You're not going to play. You're not going to take time off. You go to school for education. That ought to be validated at home. Parents and family should be involved. Don't just send the student off to school. And this is where I think me and the superintendent met mine. We would like to see a greater partnership between the community and also between parents and family. Home should provide a safe and quality space for studying. There also should be an exercise of discipline, and also they ought to validate at home. If you go to school and do right, there won't be no problem. But if you go to school and act up, there will be some discipline. That message ought to be validated at home so that there can be a greater partnership between the two. Finally, in my former remarks, at the building level, nothing is more crucial to the learning experience than a quality environment in the schools. And I think in many ways we have that in our division. While buildings can be a charming place for the learning experience, the key lies in the teaching force and the principal, who is the leader and the master teacher. The principal must be competent, a leader, a master teacher, a great communicator, an advocate of the needs and rights of the children, and always supporting a team approach. Teachers must know and master the subject that they are teaching and be positive, caring, respecting the students, genuinely and genuinely in forgiving, and also at some time showing a little passion as well as forcing the discipline. Teaching must be more than a job. Again, as I think about the days I spent in school, the teacher taught me English, but she also taught me how to live and how to be a good student and grow up and be a responsible citizen. So, in a sense, part of the pay, I know you want to get all the money you can get, and I want you to have all you can get, but I think part of the pay for being a teacher is to look out and see Johnny, and Johnny was my child, and now he's successful and going to Virginia Union or the University of Virginia, and thereby finding a place for his future. That ought to be part of the pay for being an educator.
Did you finish up, Reverend Milner? I gave you a couple extra minutes.
Finally, and this again brings me for talking on saying, let's have a partnership. The building must reach out and create a partnership with the community. And I just come to say I was encouraged and excited about the kind of interaction I had with the superintendent and assistant, Ms. Milner, and the chairman. And I hope that as we go forward and as you prepare the budget, that you will look for ways that you can make partnership a greater selling point, but also part of the platform of education in Montville and Henry County. I've been at this for 28 years. I'm a 110 supporter of public education. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Milner. Okay, our next part is awards and recognitions. When you students come up, we want the pictures taken on the podium here on the stage where we have plenty of room and we can look up at you. You parents and grandparents, don't be shy and bashful. Come right up to the front. Take all the pictures you want. If we have to hold the pose for 3-4 minutes, we'll hold it for 3-4 minutes. After all this segment is over with, we're going to take a 10-15 minute recess so some of the board members can come out and socialize with you folks out there and maybe take a few more pictures. And we'll take a break at that time, and then if you want to stay for the rest of the meeting, that's fine, and if you want to go home and finish your homework, that's fine too. Mrs. Hatchett.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. This evening, I'm very pleased to feature quite a few of our students who have achieved honors at the district, regional, and state levels. This evening, we are going to begin a new tradition, as Mr. Zaire shared with you, of having various board members greet each group of students. So students, just as a reminder, when you come forward, you'll come up and shake the hand of the board member, our superintendent, and you'll receive a certificate, and then we'll ask that you step up onto the stage for your photograph. Our first group is the FC Middle School All-District Choir. For all-district choir, students have to try out, and then they perform together as a group with students from other schools in the area. And the FC Middle School students who qualified for that particular performance will be greeted by Mr. Alker tonight. I'd like to ask them to come forward at this time to receive a certificate. The students in that group include Jolie Boyer, Kiara Brown, Tatiana Dillard, Anthony Hairston, Trip Janey, Olivia Reeves, and Samara Rumley.
Well, hold it a second.
Thank you all very much. Students from Laurel Park who achieved all-district choir recognition will be greeted by Mr. Gravely this evening. Those students are Farron Clifton, Kyra Hairston, and Brittany Mitchell. Our third group of all district choir students come from Bassett High School, and they will be greeted by Mr. Martin. The students in that group include Olivia Graham, Gabriel Divers, Dylan Castle, Haven Foley, and Trey Lindster. Our Magna Vista High School All-District Choir honorees will be greeted by Mrs. Flanagan this evening. Students in this group include Brianna Tatum, Michaela Kreider, Brianna Milner, Makia Trotter, Amanda Shimrow, Ivana Gutierrez, Amaya Childress, Brittany Hairston, Kayla Preston, Hannah Mitchell, Brandon Johnson, Ashton Gravely, Bailey Sharp, Ruby Roach, Morgan Best, and Shelby Gibbons. Our next set of honorees are all-district band members, and we're going to begin with the FC Middle School All-District Band. They'll be greeted by Dr. Stambaugh this evening. Students in this group include Treva Gann, Asia Taylor, Emma Warren, Cicely Young, Jenna Metters, Faith Wilson, Sailor Robertson, Caitlin Kaiser, Brendan Easley, Clarissa Ty, Angelina Hester, Haley Helms, Seth Turner, Christian Sarabia, Isaac McKissick, Zach Nylander, Logan Lewis, and Aaliyah Smith. ask you to squeeze really close together. We might need to make a couple rows and kind of see between each other to make sure everybody's in the picture. Make sure that you can see me and the grown-ups behind me. Our Laurel Park All-District Band members will be greeted by Mr. Gravely this evening. Students who were honored in this group include Zatalia Mania, Nathan Hopkins, Ethan Crowder, Jax Lowry, Caleb Joyce, and Tamisha Penn. The next group of students we're going to recognize have been here before. You probably remember. The Laurel Park Middle School girls basketball team has again won the Junior Piedmont District Championship. So we'd like to recognize them for that achievement. Mr. Zinger is going to greet them this evening. Students in that group include Kaylee Hughes, Jamina Hairston, Samaya Williams, Danielle Edwards, Alyssa Woods, Nala Preston, Olivia Milner, Alexis Garten, Samaya Clark, Jordan McGee, Serenity Woodley, Jade Preston, Imania Moore, and Dakota Reed.
Appreciate Mrs. Hatchett picking me for the picture. I'm the best looking man in here.
All right, ladies, make sure you can see the adults behind me too, okay? also have several groups this evening who have achieved regional recognition. And the first group is the Bassett High School Wrestling All-Region honorees. Mr. Martin will be greeting them this evening. Students in that group include Kevin Gulligan, who placed third, Darian Craig, who also placed third, and Shahi Preston, who placed fourth. Mrs. Flanagan will be greeting our students from Magna Vista High School who participated in the Region 3D Forensic Tournament, and these are categorized by their placement. Students who placed fourth in the region include Mackenzie Hopkins and Tania Jones. Students who placed third in the region include Peter Wynn, Shania Scales, and Bailey Osborne. Students who placed second in the region include Holden Agee, Ashley Taylor, David Robinson, Jesse Quinn, and Wendy Ruiz Salas. And students who placed first in the region include Tamaya Hairston, Tamara Jones, Simone Pacheco, Tiana Barksdale, Sarah Callum, and Madison Stowe. Our next group of students who placed and performed well at regionals is our Bassett High School swim team, and Dr. Stambaugh will be greeting that group of students. Members include Campbell Ferguson, Taylor Joe Gary, Elizabeth Joyce, Logan Kinkema, Zoe Kinkema, Virginia Philpott, Nancy Turner, Aurora Wachalka, Walker Franklin, Cameron Haynes, Hunter Whitlow, Josh Landon, Ty Johnson, and Damian Hurd. Additionally, 2 members from the team also qualified for state with their regional performance, so they'll get an additional certificate this evening. And those students are Hunter Cassidy and Adam Martin. two groups are students who placed at the state beta convention. And we'll start with our Bassett High School students. Both groups will be greeted by Mr. Zaire and Mr. Alker for their state achievement. Third place honorees from Bassett High School include Victoria Mitchum, Sydney Clark, Taylor Joe Gary, Campbell Ferguson, Kristen Hodges, and Seth Janey. Second place honorees from Bassett include Diana Hairston, Madison Ross, Anna Osenkowski, and McKinley Furlick. And Bassett High School students who placed first at the Virginia State Beta Convention qualifying for nationals are Kristen Hodges, Anna Hatchett, and Josh Landon. I'm going to ask you guys to come back one more time for Magna Vista Beta Convention. You'll also be recognizing them, Mr. Alker and Mr. Zaire. Sorry. Magna Vista High School Beta students who won at the state beta competition. Second place, Mackenzie Morrison and Haley Chitwood. And first place winners qualifying for national competition are Emily Maxey and Vivian Frias Alvarez. Mr. Zaire and Mr. Alker are also going to join us in welcoming our 4-H public speaking champions for this year. And we're very pleased to say that some of them have agreed to share their speeches with us tonight. But we would first like to recognize them as a group. Our 4th grade champion this year was Miss Drew Hankins. Our 5th grade champion, Wyatt Westmoreland. 6th grade champion, Chandler Motley. 7th grade champion, Kylie Minter. And 8th grade champion, Angelina Morton. ask the students who have agreed to speak to come stand with me unless you need to go retrieve your speech. But if you're willing to speak, if you'll come on down, we'll take turns and introduce ourselves and share your speech, okay? This brave young man has volunteered to go first to represent the group, so please make sure that you introduce yourself and share your speech.
I am Wyatt Westmoreland, and I wrote a speech about logical mistakes. In this speech, I will discuss some things that have to do with logic. Logic is a science that evaluates arguments. An argument is a set of two or more propositions wherein one is claimed to follow from the other. It is not a fuss or a disagreement. A proposition is an idea expressed in a declarative sentence. An example of a proposition could simply be stating the sky is blue. For time's sake, I'm going to discuss a very important part of logic: fallacies. A fallacy is a flaw in an argument. Now I will go over some very common fallacies. The first fallacy is the argumentum ad populum, or appeal to the people. This fallacy occurs when many people think it's true, so other people use it in their argument to make it seem stronger. For example, at one time, many people believed the world was flat, so others believed it based on common belief. The next frequent fallacy is argumentum ad hominem, or attacking the person rather than their argument. For example, disregarding their argument just because they're Democrat or Republican. More than likely, one of the most common fallacies is the red herring. The red herring fallacy is simply a distraction from the argument. The way it gets its name is from tracking dogs. During the training, they drag the strong scent of red herring as a stinky distraction from the scent of the fox. While the others, the good tracking dogs would stay with the scent of the fox, while the others would not. An example of this is, I don't think evolution is a good explanation for life. Besides, I'm offended by anyone who thinks I came from a monkey. The next fallacy I will break down is the false dilemma, which is when someone gives you only two options when others are available. An example of this is if someone says you're either with us or against us, or you're either completely for or completely against gun rights. The last fallacy I will address is the straw man fallacy. In this fallacy, people use a weak, off-topic version of the other argument to make theirs seem stronger. A prime example is if you attack a young person because they can't vote yet, which attempts to make their argument less valid. Logic is often disregarded by people because they don't know how important it is in day-to-day life. In conclusion, I hope you learned something valuable and will no longer fall victim to these invalid and irrational types of arguments.
Hi, my name is Chandler Motley, and I did my speech on Aretha Franklin. She flexes her rich, cutting voice like a whip. She strikes her listeners straight to the bone with every note. The first woman inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1987. Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul, still a living legacy, a gospel legend. She is known for being a solo singer and also a very talented pianist. Aretha Louise Franklin was born on March 25, 1942 in Memphis, Tennessee. Her family relocated to Detroit, Michigan, where she was raised and learned to sing. At the age of 10, Aretha started playing the piano, singing, and performing gospel songs at her father's church. She recorded her first gospel album at the age of 14. Can you believe that? Aretha recorded many albums during her music career. She received multiple nominations and many awards. Some of her most popular songs are I Never Loved a Man the Way I Love You, Chain of Fools, Do Right Woman, Do Right Man, her version of Amazing Grace, and Respect, That's My Song. For her many accomplishments, she has received the Grammy Lifetime Award, the Grammy Legend Award, Kennedy Center Honors, and multiple other awards. She had the opportunity to sing with Whitney Houston, Frank Sinatra, Rod Stewart, Stevie Wonder, and many more amazing singers. Aretha Franklin's music career was really successful. Our Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin, was truly a living legend. becoming the first female artist inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, winning 18 Grammy Awards during her lifetime, being able to have 100 of her songs on the Billboard's R&B Hip Hop Songs chart. One of her defining moments that stretched her career was the way she stepped in for Luciano Pavarotti at the 1998 Grammy Awards. The way she sang the opera song Nessun Dorma in tenor range. She was asked to do it at the last minute with only about an hour rehearsal. This was in another language and a whole different style of music. Her performance was magnificent. She was truly a queen. Aretha Franklin passed away on August 16, 2018. She was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. She will always be my hero. Her story truly inspires me. She will be missed by many others, but once a queen, always a queen.
I am Drew Hankins, and I'm doing my speech on composting. Ancient Egypt is known for its pyramids, and in those pyramids are mummies, almost perfectly preserved people. Today's world is fascinated by the work of the ancient Egyptians who left us with a rich history. Now, some 10,000 years later, everyday Americans are creating mummies, and they probably don't even know it. We're leaving behind evidence of our world also, but it's not going to be celebrated 1,000 years in the future. The ancients used a special embalming process. Us, we just store our food waste in the trash, creating food mummies, which are actually much scarier than the real thing. Food needs access to sunlight, air, and water to decompose. When we throw our food in the garbage can, the garbage bag becomes like a tomb for the food. An ordinary apple core takes about 2 weeks to decompose in nature. In the landfill, an apple core can remain intact for decades. To top it off, when our garbage bags are dumped in the landfill, they are tightly compressed and smushed. More garbage is layered on top of garbage, and no bugs can make their way in to snack on the food either. And pretty soon, that banana peel you threw out with your lunch in 2018 will become another of the dreaded food mummies. So what's the big deal if my broccoli lives in a landfill for decades? Food in landfills is responsible for creating tremendous amounts of methane gas, which is bad for the environment. So what else can you do with your food waste besides toss it in the trash? Luckily, the answer to food mummies is simple, and it's called composting. I got my first composter for my 6th birthday. Since then, we've added another composter, but really, all you need is a container with holes in the side. It is really easy to compost. Basically, you take natural items like vegetables and fruit scraps, coffee grounds, and eggshells, and throw them in a pile outside. Do not add meat, fats, cheese, or poop. Add in a little water and put it in the sun, mix in browns, stuff like newspapers, cardboard, or yard clippings, and soon you'll have the perfect recipe for decomposition. We stir and mix our compost regularly. That's important because it introduces oxygen. When our compost is ready, we add it to our flower beds because composting is a great way to enrich soil in your yard. Even if you don't garden, composting is still important because it will reduce your household trash waste by close to half. It can be hard for kids to take a big action in the environment, but composting is definitely something every young person can make happen in their home. Watch a few YouTube videos to teach yourself the process, or ask someone like me for help. Together, we can rid the world of food mummies.
That ends our student recognition. The board's going to take a 10-minute recess so we can come out and socialize with some of you folks, and you're welcome to stay or you're welcome to leave, whatever. Thank you.
Maybe you. Absolutely. All right, man. How you doing? Man, Jimmy. Hang it in there. What's up, Kenny? How you doing, man? Yeah.
Throwing the show down.
I know.
I gotta go bang the gavel.
It's got to be a Mr. Thing of Mr. Socialite.
Yeah.
Are you running this time?
What's up?
Are you running this time?
At BSBA?
No, for the school board.
Oh,
Not your
I
turn?
think this is gonna. No.
No.
Yeah, no. I have 2 more years.
Oh, okay.
Is this year? Is this?
My year, yeah. It's, must be 4 of us this year.
So I guess it would be. Are you gonna run again? This job? Yeah, I was thinking you said this was one of these guys.
Yeah.
Well, is Mr.
Oh, must be Mr. Zayer. And, no, that's 4 of us, I think. I think I'm in with the 4. But this will be mine. If I win, whatever happens, this will be mine. Yeah. I mean, I don't mind, but I mean, I love it. I love doing things for the kids. But I'm getting old.
Come on.
I'm getting old.
Thank you.
How
How are you liking this new position? Is it a ton? Is it a ton of stuff?
It kind of is. It's kind of overwhelming, but
anything is.
And then you've got us difficult to deal with board members too. They ask you to make last minute changes in schedules and plans.
Not me. I hadn't even called her hardly one
You're
time.
probably the only easy one to deal with. more
No,
like.
not normally. How's Ricky doing? Okay. I hope so. Hey, how's Sheila doing? How's you?
Please.
What would you put the over-under on the time there?
I know. I know.
What would I have predicted, or how long do I think he actually?
Yeah, either.
I think he probably talked about 11 minutes. But I would have told you it was going to be built. And if he hadn't been coming out to it, at least he wasn't. I was in agreement with quite a number of things he said.
I did too. But my thought was like 3 minutes. It's back good. He said. Especially the I mean, that's going to be
I thought the Reverend Miller had extra time. He was on his best behavior. You know what I'm saying?
She just today started a 12-week with
Make it go, Francis.
so it's really
All right, Mr. Gravy, recess is over. All right, we're back to informational agenda. Dr. Boone, you're on tap.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I'm presenting tonight the first reading of the Code of Conduct for the 2019-2020 school year. In front of you, you'll see the summary of changes for the upcoming year. I apologize ahead of time if some of your page numbers are off on the summary. When we uploaded it as a PDF, I caught it this morning that some of the page numbers might have been off, but I'm going to go through and try to be as detailed as possible for you. The first change is the new logo that we've established for Henry County Public Schools. A lot of people put hard work, and I feel like we have a great new logo. On the second page, you'll see our new vision, mission, and core values. Our vision, inspiring learners to positively impact the world. Our mission, Henry County Public Schools provide our diverse community of learners with a meaningful educational experience that prepares them for a successful future. And our core values, we value respect, we act with integrity, we strive for excellence, we promote equity, and we put students first. So our parents and community will see that first thing as they open up the Student Code of Conduct. On page 7, you'll find the updates to compulsory attendance. This is one of our biggest changes. with the new laws in Virginia and going along with the VDOE and the criteria for our public schools meeting accreditation with the percentage of chronically absent students. There is a new criteria for principals when meeting with parents and students about attendance. We've established this process this year. When there's 5 unexcused absences, the parents work with the child and the parent to develop an attendance plan to try to minimize further absenteeism. Once they miss 1 additional day, after that plan has been established, there will be a scheduled attendance conference. So compared to the old way that we used to do it, we do basically 2 attendance conferences with the parents to try to improve the attendance. If the parents do not meet the stipulations, or if they're secondary students and they don't meet the stipulations put forth in the attendance conference, they are referred to student services. I then meet with the parent and the student myself. And after that, if they fail to meet the stipulations, we do recommend them to go to court services for a criminal complaint and possibly conviction of a misdemeanor. As far as with the student, they are put on CHINs, child in need of services, and the judge, we monitor the students' attendance and we go from there. And with all this, the principals do have discretion and with these matters. For example, if an attendance conference held and the student misses 2 days for the next 4 months, the principal does not have to send that up for me to meet with them or for court action. So the principals do have discretion here. On pages 34 through 36, item 1 on page 34 is our new process that we're going to start next year for high school credit for the appeal process. Right now, if a student misses over 2 unexcused days in a 6 weeks period, the student and the parent have to fill out an appeals form to the high school principal every 6 weeks. That appeals process can only be done once a semester. So we're going away from that, and we've established this process to be done once a semester for all 18 weeks. So if a student misses a total of 5 unexcused absences in an 18-week period in 1 semester, they will be required to go through the appeals process. And this can be done twice a year. This does not include the excused absences or field trips or subpoenas to court or death in the immediate family. These are all unexcused absences. We came up with this process using research-based practices. The research suggests that once a student misses over 5%, they're considered at risk for attendance. And then once they miss over 10%, they're considered chronically absent students. And the research suggests that once they hit the 10% mark, they have a greater chance of failing. So that's where we establish these numbers. We've also stated that after 9, or once the student hits 9 unexcused absences for the semester, these students will not be allowed to appeal. However, the principal will have discretion in extenuating circumstances there. We came up with the number 9 because that would put that student at the 10% mark and would be considered chronically absent for the semester. So that's how we came up with the number 9 there for the semester. Does anybody have any questions about that? On pages 48 and 49, you'll find updated school contact information. The Center for Community Learning is now at the old Collinsville Primary, so is our Regional Alternative Program. The Career Academy is at the old Figsboro Elementary School, so this information's been updated. And then we have the updated personnel and school board information. Mr. Zaire being our new chairman, Ms. Strayer as a division superintendent, and Mr. David Scott as our assistant superintendent of operations and administrative services. And if you don't see your name up there, that's okay. You're still in the code of conduct. You're still there. But I will say, when this code of conduct was revised a couple of years ago, Mr. Scott and others that were involved did a great job. I really feel like that it encompasses all the Virginia Code, encompasses everything within the United States Constitution and our school board policy. So I feel like it's a very solid document that we have here.
And as Dr. Boone pointed out, the DOE is making that recommendation on the attendance change to their board. this month, and we look for approval of that from them, so that will be pushed out. The slide, that was the one, not the one where you have to appeal the absences, but the one before that one, when it talks about the procedures for going to court and setting up the groups. That's part of accreditation, so that will be pushed down to all Virginia schools. So I feel like that will most definitely pass. It just hasn't passed yet, so we're in line with what the DOE is doing, going to require us to do.
I guess my only question would be the verbiage that talks about exceptions can be made by principals under extenuating circumstances. It seems like that leaves a lot of gray area, principal to principal, student to student, and I wonder if that's something we want in our that much kind of gray area about something this important. I don't know what anybody else thinks.
I can think, a lot of times it is, if, like we were talking at our meeting yesterday about chronically ill students that have a doctor's note that says they have a disease like cancer or a heart issue, and they're going to miss school, like that, you know, obviously it's covered by a doctor's note and excused absence, but sometimes there's a situation where that's why the 5 days is bad if a child has the flu. They may miss a whole week of school, but the parent may not take them to the doctor because they know it's the flu because another sibling had it. So they don't have a doctor's note, but they won't have to appeal because they've only missed 5 days. But like what happened this year so far, we've had students with the flu who then had a family member have it, and then they've been sick again. So the principal could have the leeway or the discretion of saying, even though you've missed 10 days, I know that a sibling had the flu, even though you don't have doctor's notes to cover all 10. So they couldn't just randomly say, or arbitrarily say, you're okay and you're not. There would have to be a mitigating circumstance, like I know that one sibling was sick. If not, they would have to have, we're trying to get away from getting them to go to the doctor every time they're sick, because we know the community we live in doesn't need to go to the doctor every time they're sick. But we can look and see if there's any other verbiage about principal discretion. But sometimes there is a lot of gray area with attendance when they don't have an excused absence, they don't have a doctor's note, but they are honestly sick. So that's, I know it's hard on the principal, but when we met with all the principals and they said that's what they wanted, and they said they knew that was more work on them, but to be fair to the kids, without having to say you have to have a doctor's note.
And you could have some circumstances, like a child who's in foster care, and within our division, maybe moved in with a different family, and once they move in with that family, they haven't missed any days.
Right.
So situations like that.
To retain that.
Does that put the principal in the position of trying to, or saying who they believe and who they don't believe? I mean, because there's always going to be an explanation, right? When a parent is approached about why has your child missed 15 days of school, there's always going to be an explanation. And then doesn't that put the responsibility of deciding who's truthful or whose reason is good enough?
And I would say that's always been the case too, but what we do typically is if I sent you home Monday because you were sick with a temperature of 104 and then you don't come back until Thursday, I know that you were sick because I sent you home. But if you miss Monday through Thursday and come back Friday, then I typically might not excuse it because there's no evidence that you were sick. So that's what they usually tell parents that chronically miss, that if I send you home, I can have a little leeway with excusing it. But if I didn't send you home and you've just been out all week, I can't excuse that. But then again, they can miss 5 days. But it's that person who's going to miss 10 days or 9 days that's got the problem. So we hope this will deter that, because we did talk to the state yesterday about the accreditation. If they miss those 10 days, they're going to be counted against us. And they said it doesn't matter what the reason is. If they're chronically ill with a doctor's note and they've missed that many days, it's still counting against us, whether they just laid out of school. So they said they want to look back at their rules to see if they can tighten up theirs. So as the state is talking this week about the attendance rules, and they're supposed to vote on it in March and let us know in April the outcome, maybe there'll be some more clear defining guidelines. We wanted Dr. Boone to bring this to you tonight because we know the code of conduct will have to be approved, because as we upload everything in InfoSnap for our parents to go through that procedure, the code of conduct is in there. So we want to get that up in April so that we can open up InfoSnap. So this is the first reading, so we will look back in next month when we bring it back, give you some more updates on that.
I will say I think that it
strikes a pretty good balance. I agree with you in terms of the potential for, ambiguity, but compared to what we were doing, and, especially like you said, the appeal once a semester as opposed to appeal. And, as you and I have both spoken of how many of those were granted, as Mrs. Strayer pointed out, it's sort of already there. Just, putting it in the codes of principles.
Well, I think the other thing to consider, which is going to put it back on the principals, if we're talking about accreditation, they're going to be responsible for that. So that's going to eliminate a lot of that.
They have a vested interest.
Yeah, I mean, if it's going to affect your accreditation, then I don't think they'll be just passing them out. So
I think what Dr. Steinbach is saying is I think it'd be good for I'm sure the superintendent would monitor the principals a little bit to get some checks and balances there. Would that be appropriate?
Yeah, and we'll work on that on our process. And I know Aaron's been working with Dr. Boone on, because with the changes of attendance and when we take students to court, and we have to involve legal counsel.
So this is the first reading, and you'll be back next month, is that correct?
Yes,
yes,
sir.
sir.
Approval. Any other questions or comments?
I will say what I like about the new appeal process for the high school is the way we're doing it now, they were allowed to miss 6 days per semester now, so 12 for the year, so now it'd be 10. And when I was in high school the other day, I actually heard kids talking about, how many more days can I miss this 6 weeks? So I feel like now, they won't try to take advantage of it if you have kids like that. Not all of them do, I'm not saying that.
Can I say something from a parent's point of view? With a child who has a 100 average in just about all of his classes, when you put such stringent absence, like you only give us 5 per semester, I know you're saying they're taking advantage of it, but we've often taken Gabriel out to do stuff like orchestras and, just family time and stuff like that. And it's very frustrating as a parent to not have that time available. I've got a great kid. He's probably top of his class. And I get what, 2 days? How often now? You're going from 6 to 5. As a parent, as a family, it sucks. I know that's not the terms that you want to hear this in, but you gotta leave some time for us to be able to go and expound on what our kids are good at, and and just have family time. And sometimes that interferes with vacation, it interferes with all sorts of stuff that we try to do for him. So that's just a parent's point of view.
Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you, Dr. Boone.
Thank you.
Next, we have the consent agenda. Does any board member have any questions about any item on the consent agenda?
the minutes from the last meeting, just a point of clarification, Mr. Chair. I know we discussed the why when we did our resolution for last month, but I read the minutes, I didn't see anything in there. Do we need to, maybe for future purposes, make a motion to acknowledge local African Americans as during our Black History Month? For the record, do we need to? Or is it the understanding of the board that each year during Black History Month, we're going to read a resolution acknowledging local African Americans?
I think it'd be appropriate to make a motion making that part of the record. What was your opinion, Madam Attorney?
I think that if it's something you intend to do every year and you want it to be binding, I would do that.
If you want it to be binding, the best thing to do is just make a motion right now that it's binding and it's in the record. If you'd like to make the motion, Mr. Gravely.
I move that in recognizing Black History Month, that the School Board of Henry County, through a resolution, will recognize the accomplishments of local African Americans and the impact made on Henry County.
Second.
Motion's been made by Mr. Gravy, seconded by Mr. Martin. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion is unanimous. Any other questions on the consent agenda? Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion to approve the consent agenda by Mr. Martin, seconded by Reverend Archer. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion is unanimous. Next, we go to the action agenda. Our first several are Mrs. Atkins.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Currently, we utilize Dell products for student, teacher, and administrative devices. Throughout the year, the technology department may need to purchase additional devices, replacement servers, and accessories in order to ensure that students and staff have the technology needed for instruction. In addition, Microsoft Office licenses are purchased from Dell for high school student, teacher, and administrative computers. We also have a lease with Dell computers that is expiring for high school teachers. These laptops will expire at the end of the school year. After the last day of school, technicians will collect and erase content from each teacher's laptop, pack boxes, and ship laptops back to Dell. During this process, technicians will make repairs, if possible, to laptops. Henry County Public Schools will be financially responsible for additional damages that are not covered under the warranty and for the return shipment of these laptops. It is recommended that the school board approve the purchase of Dell devices, servers, Microsoft Office licenses, accessories, and for the repair and return of expired Dells. The fiscal impact is estimated to be up to $125,000. We never know how much the Dell lease return and repair is going to be. 2 years ago, we requested about $100,000 and it was about $7,000. So this year, we only requested about $25,000, so we're hoping it's going to be in about the same range. We're working hard, hard right now to make sure that we are getting everything repaired while it's under warranty so that our fees will be minimal when we return them.
Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Stoneball, seconded by Mr. Martin to approve. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Unanimous. All right, next one, Mrs. Atkins.
So we also use Apple products. We use these for student, teacher, and administrative devices, and throughout the year, we may need to purchase additional devices and accessories in order to ensure that students and staff have the technology needed for instruction. So it is recommended that the school board approve the purchase of Apple devices and accessories, which is a sole source purchase, with an estimated fiscal impact of up to $100,000. This is pending availability of year-end funds or 2020 funds also.
Questions, comments?
I make a motion that we approve the purchase of the Apple devices and accessories.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Flanagan, seconded by Mr. Martin. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Unanimous. Go ahead.
The school division established a sustainability plan to ensure that all iPads and computers are on a 4-year lease renewal program. With this program, devices are replaced every 4 years so students and staff have up-to-date technology. This recommendation is to renew all Apple leases for the upcoming 2019-2020 school year and begin a new Apple lease in order to replace iPads in 2 elementary grades, 9th grade, and high school teacher laptops. I've included a chart here that breaks down all of the leases so you can see when they started and when they'll expire. And the last lease is going to be a new lease. We did a survey to make sure that high school teachers were getting the device that they wanted, and overwhelmingly they chose the Mac. There were some that chose Dell, and so we visited those teachers to make sure that they had a valid reason for needing a Dell, and we do have a few that use some programs with their students that require a Windows environment, and so we've given them the option to either get a Dell laptop instead of a Mac, or we'll purchase them a Windows environment software. And so we're letting them make that choice because of the position in which that they teach and because of what the students need. It is recommended that the school board approve the renewal leases of devices for staff and students and for the purchase of a new lease for staff and student devices with a fiscal impact of an estimated $700,000. And this will come from the FY 2020 technology budget.
Questions, comments?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Reverend Archer, seconded by Mrs. Flanagan. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Unanimous. Go ahead, ma'am.
So in the fact sheet that you just approved, on the last lease, we have included 9th grade in this lease, but we're still deciding what's going to be the best route for us. So if we decide not to put 9th grade in this lease, then we will purchase it outright with spend down if the funds are available. So that's what our next fact sheet is about. In an effort to expand the one-to-one iPad initiative, 9th grade students have an opportunity to receive an iPad with a keyboard case. Students will be able to use the iPad to participate in sustained silent reading using the Mayan app recently purchased for 9th grade. They will also be able to use the keyboard to increase their writing skills, access PowerSchool Learning, and Google Apps for education. Jamf Pro, a mobile device management software, is included on every device. This allows the technology department to deploy apps, manage policies, and locate devices remotely. Students in the New Tech Network will not receive an iPad because they will receive laptops. It is recommended that the school board approve the purchase of iPads, keyboard cases, and Jamf for 9th grade students pending the availability of year-end funds. So the estimated impact is $181,800 with FY 2020 budget and pending availability of year-end funds. If we do this, then it will not be in the lease, and if we include them in the lease, then we won't do this. But we have to wait and see how our funding looks at the end of the year.
Questions, comments?
So all of these, I think I mentioned before, looking at the rural areas, they still can use the
Mayan.
Yes, most
in
of
order
that,
to get internet.
well, without the internet. There are some apps
Right.
that they can download at school so that they have them available when they get home.
Right. To be able to access the internet is what, because I mean, that's what I hear so often. We got all this technology, however, when they get home, and I know they can download, and then they can go to the schools and borrow one, but that's
the only solution.
the process, yeah, okay.
Yes. And we are adding, and that will be a future fact sheet, but we are adding some more Khajiits because we found that they are being utilized a lot. So we're trying to increase our number gradually and work that into our budget. So we're getting at least 10 to 20 more this year. We added a few in middle school this year, but in the coming year we hope to add some more.
Okay. I'm good.
Do I hear a motion, Mr. Gravely?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Gravely, seconded by Mr. Martin. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Unanimous. Number 5.
In the current RFP, Clinton Learning was selected to purchase active panels, and Camcor was selected for purchasing smart technologies and televisions. The interactive equipment provides teachers the platform to create and facilitate multisensory, interactive, hands-on instruction while displaying on a large screen that is visible to all students in the classroom. The televisions are paired with Apple TVs to provide the same interactive experience for high school students via their iPads and MacBooks. And I would like to add that every classroom now has some form of interactive board. They either have an interactive board or a television with an Apple TV. We were able to finish that out this year. So this would just be for replacements if something were to break. It is recommended that the school board approve the purchase of interactive boards from Clinton Learning and the purchase of televisions and smart technologies equipment from Camcor, with a fiscal impact up to $250,000 from fiscal year 2019 budget pending year-end funds and/or 2020 technology budget.
Questions or comments?
So how many are we talking about at 250? Possibly, I mean.
Well, right now, I would like to buy about 40, and that would be about $181,000 of the interactive boards, and not buy any televisions right now. We have a few smart boards that are 5, 6, 7 years old that are not working right now, but we don't have any in stock, so we're not able to replace those. So we're using projectors and kind of making do and kind of piecemealing right now. So we wouldn't be spending all of this right now. We would just spend what we needed to get the year started. And I think we can make it through the year with just those 40 as far as interactive panels go. So we hope not to spend all of that.
In all the classrooms, we are updated, good to go, you said, with the boards or?
Yes, sir. Every classroom has something. Now, some still have the smart boards because they've been working, but as they break, if the board breaks, then we take the projector to salvage, or keep the projector and take the board to salvage, and if half is broken and half is working, we try to say what's working, so that if something similar to that breaks, we first try to fix it with a similar projector before we scrap the whole thing and put up something new. We try to be good stewards of our funding and of our boards.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Stombaugh, seconded by Reverend Archer. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion is unanimous. And number 6, Mrs. Atkins.
So the HCPS boardroom has had a partial upgrade about 2 years ago with a replacement of 2 projectors. Since then, the Polycom system has continued to fail. Due to the age of the Polycom, repairing the existing system has become cost prohibitive. In order to continue to record, conduct webinars, and present, the boardroom will need a new camera, recording system, and peripheral accessories. This will greatly enhance our training capabilities also. It is recommended that the school board approve the purchase of technology in order to upgrade the HCPS boardroom up to $100,000 from fiscal year 2019 budget, pending availability of funds. We expect it to be about half of that. I had some quotes come in today. I was very pleased with the quotes. So we may have more information later. We also have a state contract that we can look at and use, or we also have an RFP out for E-rate that we may be able to piggyback onto. So we're expecting that to be much lower.
Questions or comments?
I would personally like to see us postpone this one. Reason being what you said on the previous one, that we have needs in our schools with more direct student impact. And I realize we do things in there training-wise and with our board that have indirect student impact, but I just have trouble seeing us approve so many things that are going to pen to year-end funds that we know we're not going to have for all of it. And I'd prefer it goes towards things that have direct student impact, so.
Well, I do know in the boardroom, we do have to record, so that's the system that's broken, so we can look at, I mean, it's the board's pleasure, but we have to record those meetings. You can use a different, you know, you can look at something different to use, but I know at some point, if it fails.
What have we been doing?
Right now, those cameras.
Yes, we have 2 Polycom cameras that record the meeting, and one is broken. It's pink now. It doesn't record anymore. The last time we were recording the work session, I didn't think it was going to even cut on, but it did finally come on. So it's just old and we can't fix it anymore, but we can look into doing partial. Like originally, we just did the projectors because we were trying to just kind of do a little bit as we went along and just do what was broken. So we can go back to the drawing board and see if we can do some piecemeal and maybe just update a few things and not all.
I mean, obviously, we're obligated to do what we're required to by law. I just, we have so many needs financially.
They did redesign the boardroom. You'll see that when you go
Well,
upstairs.
and Ms. Atkins did, what happened was when she knew she needed to do this to meet what we have to do, she had a very high quote up to the $100,000. And then when we were all like, that's just too much, she reached out to several. I know Mr. Scott helped her and several other vendors, and that's when she put the RFP out. And then the quotes have been coming in much, much lower. But obviously this fact sheet was due last week, so I know you were, like she said, hopefully this will be much cheaper and we can look into just the cameras.
The one that we like the best that's related to the state contract came in around $45,000.
Is it possible for us to wait to approve till we have a solid bid in front of us?
Yeah, absolutely.
As opposed to approving an open-ended budgetary amount?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's a good idea.
That's good.
So we'll bring it up next month, is that correct?
Table for next month.
Okay.
Do we need
So
to take action on, do we have to
Needs to
take
be
action on
tabled.
this?
Oh.
Or just table this?
You can table it.
We don't even need a motion to do that, do we? No. It is tabled, Dr. Stoneball. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Atkins. Next, we have Mr. Kia Scott. It's a tough act to follow, Ms. Atkins, I'll tell you that.
Yes, that it is. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, as we work to improve our facilities, an area of focus is to make our buildings compliant with the American with Disabilities Act, or some people you may hear refer to it as ADA. Installation of a new elevator at Philip Collinsville Middle School for better access from the first floor to the second floor was recognized as part of our facilities assessment study. RRMM holds an open-end contract with the Division for A&E Services, and they've prepared a proposal to provide the design and construction documents for these renovations with an estimated amount of $59,870 to include the design, development, construction documents for the civil, structural, architectural, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing details, bidding, and the construction administration that goes along with it. So it's recommended that a contract in the amount of up to about $59,870 be awarded to RRMM Architects to provide these services for the installation of an elevator at Philip Collinsville Middle School.
Questions or comments?
That construction administration, that's just oversight?
Yeah,
The
basically
they're not doing this, right? They just,
that's correct.
so we pay
Basically,
them $59,000 to,
they're right. That's the design piece of it. So you're bringing in structural engineers, mechanical engineers, the architectural design. Where we're looking at two different areas with this will not affect any classrooms, but there's a lot of structural that's got to go along with this. And the construction administration piece on it is basically, at the end of the day, they may come down and inspect that work and sign off that, yes, you followed my drawings and I feel comfortable that you've met these requirements on them. So we'll have our own team there every day following up on them, but it's a good checks and balances for them to follow up that they've stamped these drawings and they did it per the drawings. So.
Are we obligated to use RRMM?
No, sir. No, we're not. We have we can check we have another open-end contract with Cornett and Cundiff, who does most of our roofing designs. So we can check around and see if we want to. We do not, you do not get into kind of, we do an RFP for professional services, not bidding piece on it, so.
I just think that's a tad outrageous.
It's always outrageous.
well, that's one of the questions that I raised. I know we use them quite a bit, and I don't know, I mean, you familiar with that piece more so than I am. Is this a competitive price, or this is what we do? Or?
Well, we don't get involved in competing for professional services. The way we do that is we do an RFP every 5 years to have an open-end contract so that we would have these services available for us.
Right.
When we get into some type of a construction or any kind of information like this, we need to have some certified stamped drawings, and using an architectural firm or an engineering firm is required. And of course, the building inspection office is going to require that information.
So you can get another quote from our roofing contractor real quick.
Well, not necessarily quick, and we would ask them. I don't know if they would be involved in this or not. That's the other group that we haven't been in contract with. What I would rather say is we wouldn't get another quote. We could just say that we wouldn't use this firm, and then I could explore to see if Courtney and Cundiff could do it. But I would recommend we don't look at quoting on professional services.
Right. Okay.
I think the question, to maybe rephrase it, was, do you feel that this is a reasonable price for what they're going to provide you?
I do. I know it's kind of mixed emotions with things on it, but I've been pretty pleased with that group. I mean, most everything that we've been involved in has been, turned out very well. I think we do the RFPs. We had usually 5 or 6 firms that respond to those. And all of them have been, stretched from Charlottesville to Withville to Roanoke, and I felt like we've had a good relationship. They've had some members change positions up there, but yeah, I feel like they're going to, look out for our best interests. My experiences with them.
Thank you.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Dr. Stombaugh, seconded by Mr. Martin to approve. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Unanimous. And we have 2 items that's been added to our agenda, and Mr. David Scott's going to handle both of them.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. The first item is the approval of our self-insured health insurance coverage for fiscal year 2020. Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield has provided renewal information for the 1920 school year. There is a proposed increase of approximately 3.3% for fiscal year 2020. The renewal premium sheet from Anthem for the self-insured is the attachment on the board docs page. The projected 18.82% cost increase for fiscal year 2020 is based upon an upward trend of expenses over the previous 18-month period. In an effort to offset this increase in the cost of the self-insurance plan, both the school division personnel and the county personnel evaluated a number of options. The plan proposal detailed in the attached document includes the application of reserve funds from the self-insurance plan, as well as adjustments to the plan design. The combination of these 2 measures offsets approximately 15.5% of the cost increase, while attempting to minimize the amount of the increase that's passed along to our employees. It is recommended that the coverage be continued with Anthem for the period July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020, and that the school system continue to pay 100% of the single subscriber premium for active employees. And the impact of that, what we were able to achieve with a 3.3% increase, the fiscal impact of that is an approximate $300,000 in our operating budgets. Cafeteria and federal and state grant employees are still covered under their respective budgets with the different grants that come in. So what will actually hit our instructional and administrative budgets and technology budgets and so forth, that all spreads out over those categories is $300,000 approximately. Are there any questions about it?
We started this, what, four years ago? I can't remember exactly.
Yes.
It's one of the best moves the Board of Supervisors and School Board ever made. We have literally saved the taxpayers millions of dollars over the last several years. We went, I think, 2 or 3 years with no increase, and then the other year was a 1% increase.
Yes, sir.
And we've got reserve money set aside, and it's a 3.3 total increase, so our people are very fortunate. And it's one of the best insurance policies around. We're very fortunate that people who work at other jurisdictions say they admire and they're a little jealous about our insurance, so I just wanted to make that comment.
It's a key part of our recruitment.
Right.
For teachers and other professionals.
Other questions from the board?
Well, I would note that the proposed plan and the current plan up at the top is what is the current arrangement for our employees, and the one to the right will be the new plan, right? So I would point out that this is going to be a significant difference for obviously, we're still paying the single subscriber
Yes, sir.
premium, which is a huge benefit, but I think we need to be realistic about that the actual plan as outlined is quite a big difference.
Yeah.
With, you know, $1,000 deductible now and family max of $2,000 where it was zero before, higher co-pays. And it is what it is. It's happening
And yes, sir,
everywhere.
you are correct, and we've been working we hope to put out like a message very soon, maybe even tonight, to let our employees know that we have open enrollment coming up. We always send out a memo to the principals, they share it with all their faculty, and then they go to meetings just like this, and every faculty member has to have a meeting where they are told the changes, and they're also told of extra benefits they can sign up for that they could pay for. And our plan is for me to actually deliver a videotaped message to let them know, please, please, please pay attention. We don't want anyone to go to the doctor and be asked to pay $30 instead of $20 for their copay and be shocked. And I know that's the smallest amount of change, and especially if anyone has to have surgery or, like you said, the monthly payment for the family plan. So we want all of our employees to know quickly, and we want them to not be shocked by it, but we know it's a big change for them.
What kind of numbers were we looking at to keep the current plan?
I don't have those in front of me, but
But I mean, obviously prohibitive.
what basically happened is from about January 18 through not up to present, we hit a 14% increase in our net cost for the program, and so it ran our budget into deficit. And so, I mean, we were looking at, if we didn't take money out of the reserves, we were going to be trying to face about 11%. I think that, Christy, am I close on that number?
Let me see.
Right. We were looking at, before taking money out of the reserves, we were looking at about an 18% increase. If we were to apply the same amount of money that would out of reserves to address the problem, under the current plan, we still would have been looking at approximately a 10% increase.
Thank you.
So,
Other questions or comments?
Guess we don't have much of a choice, huh?
And this is in conjunction with the county, right?
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
We've been
We
working.
approve it, they approve it, and
We've been meeting with Mr. Hall, Mr. Jones, and several staff members upstairs, and for months now, and we've all been in these meetings. So,
move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Dr. Stombaugh, seconded by Mrs. Flanagan, to approve the health insurance for the next fiscal year. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Go ahead, Mr. Scott.
okay, so the second item I have is the approval of renewal of the employee vision insurance. Henry County Public Schools has offered employees voluntary vision coverage since July 1, 1997. The premium is payroll deducted with no contribution from the school division. The coverage is eligible for IRS Section 125 pre-tax treatment. The coverage is also available to retirees based on lump sum payment at the beginning of the plan year. There are currently 869 individuals covered by the vision plan between Henry County Schools and Henry County. The current coverage through United Healthcare or Spectera Vision is valid through June 30th, 2019. Mark III employee benefits, Henry County Public Schools benefits broker, selected through RFP 16-05103-A175 for employee benefits broker. Conducted a search for the best vision renewal, comparing benefits and rates from 7 different vision providers. Of those providers, Superior Vision has a plan design, benefit structure, and provider network comparable to the current coverage with United Healthcare at lower employee premiums than those offered by United Healthcare for the past several years. Superior Vision has also offered a 4-year rate guarantee. So it is recommended that the school board elect coverage through Superior Vision, brokered through Mark III Employment Benefits for the 4-year period beginning July 1, 2019 through June 30th, 2023. The fiscal impact, there is none for the school division. However, the availability of vision care coverage at group premium rates is beneficial to employees. Eligibility for the IRS Section 125 pre-tax treatment also represents a potential cost savings to employees. Employees who decline health care coverage and choose to participate in the cafeteria plan frequently choose vision care coverage.
And I need to interject here because I did have Ms. Hatchett email you all to let you know that we added, after the posting of all the board agenda, that we added the 3 healthcare, and I said I had Ms. Hatchett say to you, I asked her to say there were no change in vision and dental, because at the time I thought we were not going to make changes. So that was my mistake. So we do have this change of the coverage plan from United Healthcare to Superior.
Questions for Mr. Scott?
Not gonna affect us, so just employees, right?
And one thing that we always look for is we know that our people, it's hard to travel, so we want to make sure, as the fact sheet says, that the coverage, that there's not just certain eye facilities that are covered, so the same ones that are being used now are covered under this plan. So people will not have to change where they
We
go for
expect very
vision
little
care.
disruption. The top 25 eye doctors that were used under the previous provider are still in the new provider's network.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Martin, seconded by Mr. Gravely to approve the vision. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess we're ready for the superintendent's report.
Yes, sir. So for the superintendent's report, of course, the first part of the superintendent's report is the highlights for the month of February. have any questions.
Okay, any other questions on all these superintendent reports? Okay, we have matters presented from the board. I'm going to start first, and we'll go to Reverend Walker and go right across and give you all an opportunity. Everywhere I go, people are asking one main question, and they're hoping and praying that spring break is still on. So, Madam Superintendent, what is the status of spring break?
Well, Mr. Chairman, we have discussed spring break at length, and we are in compliance. We have another group that calculates compliance, and we are in compliance at this point. I know there's pending weather tomorrow, but we think that there won't be anything tomorrow, we hope. But even if we do have precipitation tomorrow and have to be 2 hours late, we have the time in that we don't need to take spring break, so at this point, we don't plan to take it. Now, we do value instructional time, and we do know that that we want to make the most of it. So the way it was already worked out, we had scheduled common and formative assessments and MAP testing to take place just prior to spring break. So our teachers have all been told by their principals that they need to be making sure the assessments are taken so that over the spring break, they have time to enjoy their family time, but also disaggregate the data and come back to school with that plan. And that is intense, to disaggregate data and have a plan for the remainder of the school year to really push towards the end. So we want to give them that time to be with family and friends and relax, but to also review their data and make those decisions, and also to send things home with the children for that week. And we've talked to all our principals about that and plan to send that message along with the healthcare message, hopefully in a video tonight, that we might make some adjustments to as we leave the meeting. So that is the plan, to keep it intact.
I think it'd be appropriate for the school board to make a motion tonight saying the school board voted to maintain spring break. What do you think, Madam Superintendent?
That would just be making a motion to keep what's already in place. I don't see that.
Some people think it's going to change. They're very pessimistic about it.
I don't think it requires
Okay.
a motion.
So, I mean,
The media's not here
what
tonight,
if
right?
something happens tonight that we
If something happens
do
tonight,
come?
like I'm the one who tracked it in previous years, so if you look at last year, we missed 13 and a half days last year, but we ended up making up enough days that we only ended up missing 10 days last year. So this, right now, I know we've been tracking like minutes and hours and days, and officially, we can miss 16 days. And we don't want to miss 16 and not make those up. But we also know there's a point when our parents have made plans, our teachers have made plans, and we've had conversations with principals and teachers about the many people that have made plans that are gonna not be here. And we don't wanna have instructional time that is, if we went to school 2 days and we don't have strong instructional time. So we know even if we miss tomorrow, we'd be fine. Because we're at like 8.5 days right now.
Just like that.
Yeah. So it's not about the days. We want our people to have that quality time, and we know that when our teachers have the time to rest and review their data, they're gonna come back stronger. And we keep talking, like today at a meeting, we talked about it's the quality of the work that they're doing with the students, not the quantity. So if they have those days that they're not really using and time they're not really using, that is not a value. So we want the students to have their break and teachers to have their break and come back strong. But we've asked that the principals make sure that the teachers are, preparing for the break. And we even have said if they need to make copies, because we know that happens when there's a break, that they can come up here and make the copies to the school board. We can help have those made. And they put things on their iPads for them to do while they're traveling in cars, while they're not at home, so that they can be focused on learning, continuous learning. And that's one of the things about Myon, and as Ms. Atkins wants to get iPads K through 12, that teachers are pushing out more things now than ever so that students can have their iPads and they can do work at home, even if they don't have the internet, constant access to written material to read and math work.
So let the word go out. Spring break is on. Reverend Walker.
Yes, sir.
Anything?
Well, I'm pleased with the attendance aspect. We had 5 days originally back.
Yeah, yes, we did. Yes.
And, it worked, and I think it can work again. And I'm very much in favor of that. I think you're doing a good job.
Amen. Mrs. Flanagan.
I don't have anything to state.
Dr. Stonebaugh. Mr. Martin.
I want to second Mr. Ocker. I'm very supportive of the attendance change because I'm well aware of hearing from various parents who were, hearing about their kid in that one class who never missed a day, and can you go get this note to make it an excused absence, and so on and so forth. So I like that this has more leeway for those kids who don't miss time, and also has more of a system in place for those who do miss time, especially when we've had persistent attendance issues, and it is now an accreditation item. I also, of course, want to, though again, I will point out the Principal Appreciation Week should be a month, and the Clerk Week should be a month, and of course we had our month. But I definitely want to thank Stanleytown Elementary for the nice piece of art they gave me, and I'm thankful for all the people of our division.
Save the best for last, Mr. Gravely.
Oh, buddy, I tell you, I just want to say you missed a treat. I had the opportunity to visit the Career and Technical Center about a week ago, and all I could think about was you, Mrs. Ayers, because Mr. Minna had a spread over there.
Oh, my goodness. I'm a little upset Mr. Minner didn't email me.
He had a spread, and you missed it. But I took care of it for you. But I do want to let the board know that, yes, I did have an opportunity to go over, and Mr. Minna, he and I, we toured the facility. A lot of good things going on over there, and we had some good, strong conversation, met with his teachers. We have a very strong, dedicated staff over there that is really pushing to make that program a success. And I know it's going to get there. I know we're still in the early stages, the growing pains, but I'm real pleased with what's going on over there. And I might add, I know that we're in the budget season, and we're talking about money, and I know we've talked about providing additional funding in our ed and rec for our schools. We need to look at doing something for, because I know they use mainly called Perkins money, but there's a lot of consumables that I understand that they use, and we need to provide some resources for that.
Mm-hmm. And I would like to add that this week, if you didn't have the opportunity to go to Fast Track, Ms. Hatchett every year, really does an excellent job in preparing for Fast Track and has an excellent booth every year. But this year, she and Mr. Clifton worked that booth the entire 2 days or 2.5 days and nights. But Mr. Minner joined them, and he had his students from the Career Academy there at Fast Track. And I was so proud when they spoke to members from the community, and they talked about the repair work they were doing. They were very articulate. They stepped up with those soft skills. They stepped in front of people and said, "Excuse me," and they shook hands and introduced themselves and had a wealth of knowledge about welding and just the different things that are happening at Career Academy. So everybody that walked away from the booth had nothing but positive things to say about our young people and how they're getting prepared. So it was a good showing.
Also, there is a grant through the state of Virginia for FFA that is available. I read that in Lancaster Farming, the Southern Edition. I just thought I'd share that with you. It is a grant that is put out by the state of Virginia for FFA. So I think that would be something to be looked into.
Any other board members? We have a reminder of dates. We got the Teacher of the Year event next March the 14th. We've got a monthly regular session, April the 4th, a regular meeting, and then we have to make a decision on whether we're going to meet on March 21st or March 28th. What's the pleasure of the board?
Can I ask about that? Is that gonna, I mean, that says that's the meeting for the approval of the budget. Is that gonna be the first time we see hard numbers in the budget and the night we're supposed to approve it?
We will probably send you something in your boardgram.
Okay. Because I mean, as of now, we've just seen
Right.
priorities. We've
Right.
seen very overarching priorities and nothing specific.
That's right.
Okay. I mean, I know
But we wanna
I want to
see
see it before we vote on it.
Absolutely.
Can I ask a question? What, in the past, there's been the budget booklet that has kind of gone through category by category and line by line. Is that the level of detail that you would like in a board grant?
Well, we've seen the proposed categories and where we're gonna try and do increases, and we've seen all that in advance of voting on it and been able to give feedback about, whether that lines up with our priorities. And I just, that's what I wanna see beforehand, just make sure it's.
And I would add that we've traditionally had either one-on-one or two of us meetings prior as well, which I know we did earlier. We kind of did that even earlier in the process this time.
Okay, for the budget development special meeting, the March 21st is at 6 p.m. I know a lot of you people work. I would assume that'd be the best one for you folks. And the superintendent will be at that meeting. If it's the other one, she won't be there.
I think
So
that
should
decided it for me.
Yeah, me too.
For all you working people out there, I'm looking after you, okay?
I'm also kind of looking forward to having the superintendent at the meeting.
I understand. Do we need a motion to go with March 21st so we can advertise it? We do. We need a motion March 21st at 6 p.m. Motion by Reverend Archer, seconded by Mr. Martin. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Unanimous. And you can look at the other meeting dates there. Anything else before we go into closed session? We need a motion to go into closed session, a copy of the code 2.2-3711A1, A7, and A2. I need a motion to that effect, please.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Martin and seconded by Mrs. Flanagan to go into closed session on those three codes. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Unanimous. We will meet upstairs and we will adjourn from upstairs. Thank you, fellas.